It's another Love What You Do Again, or whatever we're going to call it for 2022. Of course, it's Monday at 3 o'clock Eastern and all the times in between. And then, I'm going to go back. It's all about the leadership choice of looking in the mirror. We talked a lot about this over the weekend of assessing, reframing, and providing evidence. I just recorded a podcast with somebody about the gift of having evidence in what you believe, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And ultimately having the actions, the thoughts, and the words all aligned so you truly walk the talk, so you get to love what you do or love it even greater. That is what we get to do every Monday, or the Mondays that we are all available. And this particular weekend, if you happen to see a couple books behind me on my shelves, those are books that actually have my name on them, which is quite unique. And we mentioned this particular prison, and we went and did a book signing this weekend at this prison. It's a museum now. It was open in 1896 and closed in 2009. I have to update the dates in the book. I was corrected this weekend. And yet I talked about the fact that we all have keys to our cell. And so often, and what even got me out to Brushy was my church pastor had done a session for his next steps about, and he was actually inside one of these cells when he was talking about how we create these prison cells. So I took a trip out there, got to learn all kinds of different experiences, and wrote about it in the book. Today, I want to remind each and every one of you listening to this audio or joining us live that this is an opportunity for us to really be purposeful about what is happening in our own jail cells, and that we truly have the key to each and every one of our cells. We each have a situation that may be happening that our mind will create a block, a layer, a wall, and we create a story around it. And until we address that story, until we take on a understanding of what perceptions we have attached to that story, we will keep ourselves locked in the cell. I get to deal with this all day long, every day, in working with people to help reframe their evidence, reframe their stories, and determine what happens to release them. And you can see here in this little picture, the brick wall, there's an opening. And we got to hear some fun stories this weekend from one of the prison guards. And they would rarely open up these gates. And they would talk about the different experiences that would happen. And one of them, they actually had a strike where all the prison guards weren't working. And they actually talked about another gate and where they would just deliver the prisoners and lock them to the gate and just leave them there because the guards wouldn't receive them. So they just camped them out of the gate. It was quite interesting. So they had a little bit of freedom until they were locked up either way. They had shackles on them. So I want to talk a little bit more about the belief system and how these keys get open. And again, it's a simple thing of putting the key in the lock. And yet our mind is not so simple when we actually work to discover which key are we dealing with. Is it a key about our belief system? Is it a key about the story? Is it a key about the experience? And I'm going to give an example, and then I'm going to call on somebody to do the same. And one of them for me personally, I talk about in the book a little bit, is the awareness of how and who I'm serving. And at the end of the day, more often than not, so many of us have a bad tendency to put ourselves at the least on the priority list. And one of those things that I have learned over the years, and a multitude of years, is learning how to make myself and my self-care and my commitments a high priority. I have the key to that. Every time I give somebody else permission to decide what's on my schedule or who I serve or how I serve, I get a key. I give them a key to my jail cell. And I either choose that or I choose to allow them to choose it for me. Does all that make sense to everybody? Just a little, right? So who wants to resonate first with what I wanted to talk to you about everybody today is what might be their particular key they want to address today. Stephen, you want to go first. I'm excited to hear.
What key do I want to use? I'm still looking at my jail cell, and figuring out which cell I'm in. It's like I have all the keys, but I keep finding myself on the wrong side of the door. And with a little reflection today, I found out that I discovered that the key that I need to use is just letting go. That believe it or not, there are other people that can do as good or better of a job at some things that I'm holding on to than I can. And the idea of letting go of that has been very difficult for me. So I've got the key. I already know what I need to do. I just need to open the door and take a step out and allow someone else to take over some of these tasks that I have so tightly held on to.
And it's a simple little key.
Yeah. Well, it starts simple, but then we create all these stories that support our position. And then it becomes a position of, this is why I can't, or I won't. And so I found that just going back to the basics of what I need to do every day, I've already identified what those are. And when I own that, I know that some of the stuff's not on my list to do. So it must be on somebody else's list. And I just need to find the people whose list those items fall on and get them busy doing that.
And Stephen, in Grass Valley, Nevada City, where you are located, and Miss Jamie Dorlane's joining us, she's very familiar with. She's actually in the Knoxville, Tennessee area, and Mr. Sam in the California beach community. Just beautiful background picture there. I just love to comment on is you all know that each of us have our giftings, right? And you said, I want to choose somebody that I can add it to their list that's going to be valuable, that they're going to be able to do it better than I can, even though, and I get to believe that they could. And I love when you said, and I won't, I can, but I won't. And that was a powerful statement, because we make a conscientious choice. And what came up for me as you said that is, we think we only have one little cell, yet every time we choose we won't, we're adding another layer of a cell. And then we wonder, and that was one of the things I loved about being in Brushy, is you actually could go into different aspects, and Jamie may be able to comment on her experience. I know you're off of camera, but I think you're able to communicate with us. Let me know on either chat or however. She was at Brushy this weekend. So it'll be fun to hear her thoughts on. Oh, you can communicate.
I sure can.
Awesome.
Can you hear me okay?
Absolutely. JV, what was your experience in regards to Brushy and the sales that you got to visit?
Well, and I think I'll start it off too by the fact is knowing your book and doing the training that we've had. One of the keys that I kind of had to give up was letting other people control my time. And I remember you saying to me that, or I always said to you that, things happen spontaneously. I'm kind of at the mercy of someone else's schedule when they're available, when they need help. And you actually set me straight that is not how to do it. And I have found definitely by taking my key and setting aside where it is my schedule to set, and I can definitely plan for things that are going to come up and use the remove and replace method to where I have more of that control now, and I get more done because I'm not always just running, trying to keep away. And I think that was really being in my own jail cell was giving my time to everybody else except myself. And going to Brushy, it was quite an experience. I didn't know what to expect there, but just seeing the small cells that you are locked into, and went down to where the hole was. And I cannot even imagine what life would be like for days, hours, months, years in something so small, confined. And I was reading the sign and it says they only had 2 buckets in there besides the bed. And the buckets, one was fresh water and one was for the restroom. And just kind of seeing, there was very little light, there was very little air, there was no thing to the outside world. And it was just really feeling trapped. And I would say I felt trapped before I kind of was able to release my schedule and take back that control.
And you didn't feel like you had a light in that process, it sounds like, either. It was really powerful how you showed that.
It definitely was powerful, and it's definitely something that I continue to work on, but it definitely is something that in my trainings with you has helped me come a long way in being more successful in my career too.
Thank you, Jamie. One of the amazing things about the Bresci prison is where Jamie's talking about, they actually have a section where it was part of that. They had no lights, no nothing, no windows. It was just a very intense area. They had a maximum security. They had just what they call the whole, it was just such a unique experience. And sadly, those people were captured because of their choices, and some of them never got out. And yet all of us individually have a choice to physically have freedom if we choose. And yet what Jamie talked about is the fact that so often, and all of us have had this experience, we go into reactive mode based off of our stories, our experiences, etc. And we choose to give people the authority and or the ability to have access to our schedules, to our decisions, to our beliefs, and instead of owning them ourselves. So great job, Ms. Janie. Thank you for sharing that. Sam, anything you want to comment on that?
I mean, I think that this very really touches a lot of what I've been doing with the past few weeks. I'm doing something, well, I'm transitioning, but the thing that I was doing full time before is really sucking a lot of energy, a lot of focus out of my life that needs to be focused on this new venture. And, you know, I'm probably about 80%, 90% of the way done with a lot of the things that I have to do. And it's just part of my personality to say, hey, I'm going to do them 100%. You know, I told my clients I'm going to do these things 100%. I'm going to finish the job for you rather than refund their money or find somebody else to do it. But it just really hits home. So.
You know, Sam, there's so many things you just said there. And so I think it'd be appropriate to open it up to the next set of questions, if you will, is, you know, as we talk about wrapping up 2021 and we're in the final weeks, we've got just a couple Q&As left to make sure that we're allowing people to be purposeful, because, and I have a couple clients that I love to joke with them and say they're proactively reactive. It is such a unique teeter-totter, right? I'm sure Jamie can relate with that. Stephen can relate with that. I'm sure you can, Sam, is that we so often get caught up in that experience that as we move into determining what is in our control, Jamie says, I'm still a work in progress, as she basically said, is I know that I can choose to set timelines. I can set expectations. Sam, you made some choices that said, I'm going to complete this. I made a commitment, I'm going to own it, etc. And yet you also said in the same breath, yet it's draining and it's challenging and etc.
Yeah, you know, I have contracted out. I have turned away some clients, but for a few select clients, you know, close family and friends, I'm just in a place mentally where I feel I can turn those people away. So.
Well, and Sam, there's a couple of different opportunities to hear and see, and Stephen, we talked a little bit about this as well, and it's an opportunity for you to decide how you want to share that, is when you're, as Stephen said, when you won't let go of something, you're creating a space, you're creating a confinement, if you will. And I understand the relationship and I understand the desire to honor and etc. Yet I'm curious, as you move forward, as you wrap up 2021 and you build your team for referral sources, have you found the people that you want to refer to so that you choose what's going to be on your schedule and how you're going to commit to that?
Well, I definitely have. I definitely, with at least with I would say the vast majority of my professional sources, I have made that definite change of saying, no, I'm not going to take any more of the old kinds of clients. It's very, very hard for me to when a close family member says, hey, I have this problem, and that's what I did in my previous life, per se, to turn them away. Rather than say, hey, I know somebody who can help you, or I can't help you, or whatever. So definitely creating that space, whether I want to or not.
So Sam, what would be your question today? What would be the best way we could add value to you today? Because there's a couple things I'm hearing you say, but yet I want to verify what,
Um, I guess it would be how to say no to family. And April and I've been talking. April, we've been talking about that a lot. And I don't know if I will ever get to the point of being able to say no to close family members when they need help. So
I'm going to pause that for a minute and say Jamie and Stephen, if they want to chime in on what they've learned and how they've learned to address that same issue before I have some commentary on that. Who wants to chime in on that one?
Well, I think I'd need to know, are you talking about working with family in your current capacity or your past capacity?
in my past capacity as an attorney.
Right. So, I've had family. I've just basically told them I could probably do it, but I'm not going to be able to do it at a level that you need it done. I was an attorney. I'm not an attorney, or I was an attorney, but that's not my business right now. And there are other people that could do a better job for you, and just have that person that you can refer out to.
Jamie?
I would say the same type of thing. For instance, I mean, as a realtor, I specialize in 55 and older. Can I deal with a lot of different ones? Yes, but it's not really where my skill set is. And so for me to have a referral partner in someone where it is their specialty, it's kind of like you're the jack of all trades, but so you can do it in a pinch, but it's not really in their best interest, as it's not in your best interest, is what I would say on that.
And it's so interesting, Jamie and Stephen, because in your arena, there's pretty much anybody that supposedly there's not a so-called niche, and yet there's so many niches in real estate. And I love, Jamie, that you own the 55 and better is the way you call it.
I just found out that I'm in a niche.
And what niche is that?
I thought of myself as 55 and older.
And better, not just older, better.
Better and getting better.
Right?
I can go live in a retirement community now.
Oh, wow, right? The joy of aging. Yet, Sam, some of the things that I heard you say a couple of times, and I just want to clarify and help everyone listening that will be listening to the recording as well, is that family has its own uniqueness, right? There is, I could tell you some stories. Anyways, my point being is that anytime you get involved with family, there's an expectation that gets created without an unspoken expectation immediately, right? Then you've also got the areas of gifting, etc. Sam, what I do know is that there's some already major commitments made. So you feel the challenge of being as backpedaling type of concept, which makes it even more challenging, right?
A lot of it, yeah.
And the other aspect, and Jamie, I love the way you said that and made Stephen enjoy the 55 or better commentary, is that, of course, and Jamie, I mean, she can serve first-time buyers, she can do certain arenas too. Yet if you have, I don't think I remember Jamie speaking Spanish, so a Spanish-speaking client may not be the best fit for her. Or it may be a college student looking for a property in a certain college community. It could be lots of different things. I'm using an example of diversity in how we can be. Sam, you're moving into a whole different industry. And so your focus is getting in the jump is what I find over and over again, and Stephen, you can speak a little bit to this, is that more often than not, we've created a story around something that's the gatekeeper. Exactly. Thank you, Stephen. And usually there's another reason behind that. Does that make sense? So Sam, if you were to think, and Stephen, maybe you can talk about the key that you just mentioned about releasing compared to daily.
Well, and so I created this story around why I'm holding on to certain aspects of my business where my time would be better spent, quite frankly, doing other things, doing what I do, doing my daily activities that I know I need to complete to continue what I'm now focusing on. And I've just, it's kind of, it's just a realization that, you know what, someone else can do this, and someone else can do it better than I can. I'm really good at certain things, and I'm pretty good at others. But the things that I'm pretty good at are really the ones that I'm holding on to. And I know there's people that have the time and the finesse, which I lose very quickly, to deal with the kinds of challenges that I'm holding on to. And so knowing that there's someone else that can do it, someone else that does it all the time, someone else that has the gift of smiling and listening to the BS excuses that keep coming across, or hearing the lies that are coming across, and just knowing that the goal is getting it closed. Having someone else do all that frees me up to be able to be the best person I can be with doing the day-to-day activities that I'm really good at.
And Sam, do you resonate with that?
I resonate with that a lot because as a law firm owner, I guess, I mean, as an attorney, it was like I need to do everything. I need to do absolutely everything from A to Z, from 1 to 100, because number one, I'm responsible for it. Number two, nobody can do it as good as me. And I recognize that. And going forward, it's not going to be how I'm running my business. But still, I think that there's a lot of things that are holding me back at the same time.
Well, and Sam, pay attention to a couple of things that Stephen said, and then I'd love for you to comment on it, is that Stephen basically said, not only do I resonate with the fact that I'm dealing with things that I really don't have the patience for. I have a commitment and a goal to achieve. And when I delegate those things and I allow the right people to handle it, it gives me the freedom, and I get out of my jail cell, and not just one jail cell, but a multitude of jail cells. Because now I've given the gifting to another individual to handle their giftings.
Okay.
And that's first. And then the second cell is the ability to shine where I'm called to shine, and to celebrate and have fun and enjoy what my area of expertise is, or learn how to make it. And that's the, go ahead, Stephen.
It's when we do the parts that are keeping us tied down, we're expending that energy there rather than expending that energy in a focused manner where we can do the most good. We're actually robbing our clients of the best me or the best you, because you're spending time doing something that you already know you have some kind of a challenge with, and that challenge comes up in the way you do it anyway. So cutting that off and being the best person you can with the people that you do the best with, you're honoring the people that you're working with by doing that. Wow, I don't believe I just said that.
This is why I always ask you to stop when we're doing this. Because it's so much different when you hear it and when you own it. Does that make sense? There's a difference of hearing it and then stating it and verbalizing it, and then truly hearing yourself. Is that following?
Yes, but it's deeper than that.
Mm-hmm.
We do what we do because and when we do what we do want to do it the best we can, because we're all responsible at the end of the day for our own activities, right? Whether it's because of a license or credentialing or something like that. But even bigger than that, we have a spiritual commitment to honor our God and everything. And if we're not doing that where we are best suited to do it, then what are we doing? What are we doing? I mean, we're making the choice to do something else, already knowing, which is the jail cell, already knowing that it confines us and it limits us.
Mhm.
We have the key to unlock the cell and do what we know we should be doing, which is honoring our clients and honoring our God by doing what he has chosen for us.
Well, that's when we get to be.
Oh.
We talk in the book is that I don't just get to do, I get to be. I get to
Yeah.
be who I'm called to be. And and when you're in that presence, you don't question, you're either. I'm gonna let you, Sam, share what's resonating with you.
Well, I think the thing that I found out about myself, when thinking about this, is that I didn't think that I was such a people pleaser professionally. Where I really don't care what people think about me. I usually do what I feel is best. I don't go along with the crowd until I've made professional commitments to family members about certain things. And also I think that I just think it's one of the more traditional things about it being a very respectful and dignified profession to be an attorney, whether it is or not, where it's like I have to go to bat for my clients every single time, even though I don't, I want to get out of it. So,
Well, and Sam, what I heard you say is, the new business, are you still a respectful and go to bat? Nothing's changed.
Well, I would say that I wouldn't be going into this new business if I didn't think that it was important. So.
And yet, Stephen, the actions getting halted. And when we don't, when we're in that cell and we're not moving, we're not taking the steps, that other cell is winning. Like, I love the way Stephen said it when he began. I'm on the wrong side of the door. So the choice gets to happen of what do we need to say or believe, more importantly, to be on the right side of the door, or the empowering freedom side of the door, the gate, the cell. Stephen?
So Sam, I don't know you real well, or actually at all, other than a couple times that we've been face to face on Zoom. But I see you as a very honorable person, man, and I suspect that you said, I go to court, do everything I could if I have to, and it's like you've got all this inside of you that needs to go over to what you're doing now. I believe that you put that energy into whatever you are focusing on. And so if you're focusing on your clients in your new role, they're going to get all that energy and honor that you have inside you. And that will be reflected in them back to you in the way of like referrals and just general goodness.
Are you speaking to yourself too, sir?
What?
Are you speaking to yourself too?
That's a whole other discussion.
I love it.
But what I see is that I see almost a concern that you have that which you maybe it's because you're more comfortable with it. I don't know, because I don't know you, in one venue, in one position, you can have all that same energy in either position.
Mhm.
Can't share it 100% with both. It's
And Stephen, I would add one thought to that, and I think this will be appropriate for you as well, Sam, and all those listening, is you, and I say this to so many people, as an author, as a podcast host, as a coach, as a, all the multitude of job descriptions I have, am I capable of being 100% completely present in that moment? In whatever role I've got on. Mr. DeSena, you will be a team leader. You will be a individual that is infusing a multitude of people, and you have a different hat at different seasons. When you are taking care of your fun new TC or whoever else you get in their team, you get to show up 100% to those people. Sam, you get to do the same thing when you're in completing the role, wrapping up 2021 as the lawyer. You are 100% there at those moments. When you're 100% in a marketing role of your specific niche, you're 100% completely present in those times. And I have many clients that they have a multitude of roles, and their biggest gift I can give them is to remind them that when they're in this role, when you're in husband role, show up 100% in husband role. When you're 100% dad role, show up 100% dad. Believe me, I work at this all the time. My children will tell you. I still have lots of work to do on mom role. It may be till I'm, long gone. It may be years after that, right? We all have different areas of our life that we get to figure out what 100% looks like. Does that make sense? So the exciting part about it, and Sam, is there anything else that we can be a gift to you today? And I'm going to close this out with one more question afterwards.
No, I don't think so. I think this is good for now.
You always know that you never know what we're going to talk about, right? Yeah. And Stephen, thank you for being willing to be a vessel for our community. It is always a gift for you it's always fun to watch you live out what you're processing and to really own it. It's just immensely powerful. And so what I would say as we prepare for our next week, we're going to have like I said, a couple more sessions. And number one, as we go into our Living Unlayered Challenge for 2022, it's understanding that the more, and Stephen talked about it in one of our previous sessions, the more you act in faith and belief and in trust, you get to step into what you believe because you allow it to be transformed in front of you. You become that belief. You live out that belief. I can tell you and Stephen's watched me over the years become a stronger and more present coach the more I owned my own role as a coach, my own role as a trainer, my own role as an author. People are like, you're an author now. Oh yeah. Those are the things that and all of us can find the things that we can do better. Yet at the end of the day, there are specific giftings that each of you want to do. So in this upcoming week, and maybe our next, I'm curious, what would be the final 2 things you'd like to make sure we cover in our next 2 sessions? That would be my walk away question for you both today. Who's going to go first? Go ahead. Wow.
You make this appropriate. It's like being under the bright light.
Yeah.
What's the question?
We always start with 10 to 15 minutes covering something that is just like the jail cells today. What would be the final 2 things that would be valuable for our Q&As to wrap up 2021?
How to fulfill 2022.
Ooh.
I mean, we're at the end of it. I'm not much for looking back other than to assess. I think all that will probably be done at that point. I'd like to start focusing on, well, I've already started focusing on 2022.
I know. Okay, Sam?
How, like how are we, what are we going to do to make 2022 different from 21?
I love that. Okay, Sam?
I was thinking something along of what Stephen said, but more goal setting, not just business. 'Cause I'm really good at setting business goals and saying, I need this many clients, or I need this top line income at a certain date, but the other goals of my life, being a husband, being a father, having time with myself, those kinds of things.
So it sounds to me like, what are we, and there's a card that I'm working to send out. What are we doing to create a transformation for 2022? What actions, what commitments? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes.
And I like the word fulfillment, Stephen. What are we doing to fulfill 2022? And here's the walk away I would leave you with for today. And you can all comment on any others. The first thing I would advise you to do, and I am working to do as well, is to put on your 2022 calendar, the personal things first. What are the personal commitments you're making that are fun for you, Stephen? The barbecues. Anyways, Stephen's a great rotisserie individual. He just loves to, and I'm sure I will be in town for one of those at one point. With that, choose one of the things that Jamie and I are doing is another 5K. That's something we've committed to doing for our personal health. Choose something, choose today, and then we will work purposely over the next 2 weeks on how we are fulfilling 2022 in goal setting as well as transformational commitments. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I'm excited. Is there any other commentary? I'll give you 7 more minutes to your day. Enjoy. It's always a gift to spend time with you all, and I will see you again next week.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys. Thank you.